What is happening, Dead Pit Universe? I am Uncle Bill, and I will soon be joined by many others for the debut of ExploitNation, which is a show only about exploitation films, which are some of my favorite type of films. Some of like a lot of y'all's favorite type of films. We're going to go through some of the best, in my opinion, of the vigilante style films. And this was a huge sub genre that kind of popped up in the early 70s based around the Death Wish film, and probably before that, actually, Walking Tall, maybe. But the Death Wish one was the first urban setting of these type of films. And joining me to talk about these wonderful style films, first up, a man that really needs no introduction, but I'm going to introduce him anyway. It's Radkins, Ryan Atkins from the board. How you doing, man?
What's up, gang?
Next up is the man that is the main eventer. The man only does big matches and never sells for anybody. It's Big Mac John himself, Movie Junkie John. Can't see him,
What up?
but he's there. And the always present and ever plentiful with the cocaine. What's up, man, Mark?
What's up, everybody?
Oh, God. So how you guys doing?
Good.
Pretty good.
Is everybody ready to talk about some classic exploitation style films?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah,
Definitely.
So I purposely picked these movies because they represent like this style of film from like different decades. And I wanted to kind of get like a take on each, each kind of take on the genre from these different directors. And I don't know, like this may be my favorite exploitation style film is the vigilante style films. I mean, there's a bunch. You got Nazi exploitation. We were talking about this earlier with Rackins. You got Nazi exploitation. You got nunsploitation. You got like biker films. You got gore films. You got there's like a million different subgenres, but this might be my favorite. I don't know what your guys' favorite would be, or if you have a preference for that style of films.
I would say like my favorite's probably gonna be like the revenge type exploitation films. The gore films too would probably be like my second favorite.
yeah, same. I mean, anytime we can just blow shit up for entertainment, I'm all for it. So
Definitely. Yeah. Anything like this. I mean, I don't know if you would classify something like Falling Down as an exploitation film, but like I like those kind of things where people just have enough and they go crazy,
It is kind of like that. Yeah. I mean, same type of idea for sure. I was trying to think of one like two that, because I didn't include the 90s in this, but I was trying to think of like what was a fucking vigilante film that came out in the 90s. And I could not, like right off the top of my head, come up with one.
Actually, I mentioned this one to John on the Discord. It has Robert Forster and Fred Williamson, Jim Brown, Pam Grier. It's original gangsters. This is the last Larry Cohen film. It's from '96. If you like Vigilante, or if you like Vigilante films, you definitely need to give this one a shot. And it's an absolute must for Cohen fans, I think. It's a really fun movie.
It seems like I've seen that, but it's been a long time ago. Like I'm not sure.
I think this is Kino. Yeah, this is from Kino. And I'm pretty sure it's still in print. You can probably get it for cheap. It's worth a watch. I think you'll be thoroughly entertained.
I don't think a couple people are asking like questions about Falling Down. I don't know if that's a vigilante because like I guess nothing really happens to him to where he like is seeking revenge per se. He just fucking loses his shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like I mean, it's not like in all these films that we're going to be talking about today. Like there's some triggering event like where like somebody kills somebody's family or wife or some shit happens, and then they go out and like start. What did William Lustig called them? Something that was great, like urban retribution films. That's what he called them, which I think is a great title for these. as he's the one that directed Vigilante too. But yeah, Falling Down's a completely unique film. I don't know what the hell you classify that as. Really, just like
I don't know if you would consider Payback with Mel Gibson. It's kind of like a thriller, kind of a revenge film. It's not really a vigilante, but he does some pretty cool stuff in there to get back at those guys. I don't know if it's
I
a
love that
vigilante
movie,
film,
though.
but yeah.
Yeah, it is. I kind of classified as that. The Punisher would be one. You're right. The Dolph Lundgren version of the Punisher. Yeah, that's a definite vigil. That might be the ultimate kind of vigilante movie of that time period.
Yeah.
I love that movie too, and people shit all over that movie, but I think it's great. The Dolph Lundgren Punisher movie.
Oh yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Bobby Reynolds asks the important question: what's the difference between an anti-hero and a vigilante? To me, there's no difference. Well, by definition, a vigilante takes the law into his own hands, right? Like that's the.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if an anti-hero necessarily does that or not, or if they're just like somebody that is not necessarily playing by the rules of society per se. Hard to kill. That's hard to argue. Hard to argue. Steven Skulls put in a coma, escaped 5 minutes after going into a coma, gets vigilante justice. Yeah. By the way, side note to this, the mayor said, like, if you can send like a link or something, that early on in this stream, before we even started, that David Emge had died. Everybody, you might remember him as Flyboy from Dawn of the Dead. So I hadn't heard anything about it before we got on here, but that's a huge bummer if that's true. Because
I actually looked up his obituary right before we started, and he passed yesterday.
Oh shit!
It sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like my favorite movie of all time. So that's awful.
I still can't believe that T-shirt Joe hates that movie.
I can assure you that he does.
Crazy.
I mean, it's Dawn of the Dead. Like, God.
I mean, we walked through we did a commentary over the movie, and it was just him nonstop shitting on the movie.
Yeah.
Like with me trying to explain any of the merits of the film, and him just like continuously shitting on it. So I'm positive he doesn't like it at all. Well, let's get started. So in 1974, a film came out that pretty much changed this style of film and exploitation films in general, which was Death Wish. It starred Charles Bronson and Hope Lang, and it was based off a book by a guy by the name of Brian Garfield. And that book was apparently nothing like the movie whatsoever. But the movie's awesome, so fuck them. Like, writing a book that ain't going to be as good. But, yeah. So, I mean, if you guys could maybe, like, just talk about, like, what do you remember, like, experience watching this movie? Like, when you saw it, what your kind of opinion is of it? There's, like, 5 of these, I believe. 5 Death Wish films.
Yeah.
Just kind of like what your thoughts are about the movie and the series, too.
Sure.
As a whole. Rackins, we'll start with you.
So I mentioned this in the Discord. This was the first time seeing any of these 3 films. I had Death Wish for a while, and I just never got around to watching it for whatever reason. As far as Death Wish goes, it's a great movie. I mean, there's some things about it that I kind of have like a little bit of issue with, but nothing too serious. I don't want to get too much into it because it's kind of spoilerish. But overall, I mean, it's a great film.
What do you think, Mark?
I've been a big fan of it for years and years now, since the early DVD days when it first hit. And the sequels are, I don't want to say better, but they're a lot more fun, I think, than the original. Canon came in and took the franchise. Well, it wasn't a franchise, but they took the rights away from, I think it was Dino De Laurentiis. Now, for the second movie, they didn't go in the direction of the book, but either way, it just ended up being a lot of fun. I mean, they took the general concept of the original and just went crazy with it. They kept changing the setting of each movie. You have different group of bad guys each time, and he just runs through all of them in the best ways possible. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the franchise. I love it.
The second one, to me, one of the best parts about the second one is Jimmy Page's score, which is
Yep.
amazing. The third one is my favorite because it's batshit insane. Like from beginning to end, it
Yeah.
doesn't make a lick of sense, and it's like really like cartoonish. But
You wouldn't even know that Winter directed all three. Like it doesn't even.
No.
Each movie is vastly different from the one before in like the style of how they are. Like so, the second movie it's quite a bit more sleazy, I'd say, than the first movie, but that's a good thing. Like the charm of it is the sleaze. Of course, you got a young Lawrence Fishburne in there,
Yeah.
and then with the third film, it's the way it's edited. It's such a like frenetic pace. They only went for like
Yeah.
straight up action, straight death.
It's like to me, you mentioned, but it's like Death Wish 1 and 2 are like Rambo 1 and 2. Like the second Rambo is just nonstop fucking action, while the first one's more like a character study and like kind of slower and slow paced. Same kind of thing with Death Wish, really. Like it's from the first one to the second one is like completely different. It just depends on what style of movie that you like, really. Like as to which one of those you prefer. And I think you mentioned Rocky. Was it you, Mark, that mentioned it, or was it somebody else that mentioned it?
I think that
somebody
was John.
mentioned it. Did John mention it? That it was very similar. Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of. I think I grew up watching probably 3 and 4 on like TV because they would show that on TBS all the time. Canon, as I feel like Ted Turner had some deal with Canon Films or something. He was just like always rocking and rolling them back in the 90s. The first one, I've only seen it like 3 times maybe. What I like about the first one is that the whole thing is kind of realistic. Like he's a pacifist. He's kind of he was in the army, but he was like a passive. What was it? A passive observer or something.
Yeah, there's a word that they use. I can't remember. Yeah,
and he's very like, I don't know. I really like how everything he does in the movie. There's nothing wasted. He just goes out. He shoots people. He leaves. He shoots them. He leaves. He doesn't like, there's nothing. It's like he's malicious. It's like he's dangerous, but he's not like vicious about it. He's just like, he kills them. He leaves. And then one guy, he doesn't, he tries to kill him. And then the guy goes into surgery. But yeah.
There's a fucking theme to all these movies I noticed too, which is that whenever shit goes down, nobody's around. Like there's no fucking witnesses in any of these movies to anything that happens until the very end. And then somebody sees something, but like, yeah, you're exactly right. And one of the things that always stuck out to me about Death Wish was, oddly enough, the scene where he's like goes and gets the quarters, because that's such a thing to do. Like if you didn't know like what to do self-defense wise, like before you get a gun or anything like that, you're just like, what can I do to like protect you just go get quarters and put them in a fucking sock. You know what I mean? And like that was just his first attempt. Like he's trying to learn how to like defend himself. And that's like very realistic. Like somebody wouldn't just go out immediately and like learn how to shoot a gun like that or anything, which is one of the issues that I had with when we talk about death sentence later. It's like that dude learned how to use like every gun imaginable in like 20 minutes. Like it was amazing at it. But in Death Wish, it's much more like a progression. And like when he does finally gets a gun, it's like one gun. He stays with that gun like the entire time, which actually makes more sense too.
And he doesn't even buy the gun; it's a gift.
No, yeah,
yeah. And there's something kind of, I don't know if you guys thought this, but I was watching it. I watched it again last week, and there's something about Charles Bronson in that first movie, especially it's a little bit scary in that the way he does things. It's like it's like he kind of enjoys it. He's very the movie that it reminded me of was the new Joker movie, the way he is in that movie. It's like there's something about it, like he's killing these crooks, but there's also something in him that's like set off, right? It's more than just his family was attacked. Like there's something going on, and I don't know if Michael Winter was trying to like allude to that maybe, but I definitely picked up that maybe he was a little crazy. Like there was something going on in that movie.
Kind of noticed that too, like especially when they're sitting there in the restaurant and he's just like grinning as they're talking about the bulletins about the whole like vigilante out there killing muggers, and then on top of that too at the end with the
yeah, which is that might be the best ending of any of these movies. There's another scene too that kind of leads you to that, where he's like playing music and he's cooking dinner and shit. It's after like he's started the kill spree and everything, and his son comes over and he's like, what do you want me to do? Just hold up here and fucking, whatever. He's like prancing around the house, like just doing all this stuff. But yeah, you kind of get the idea that like once he gets started, like he's not really ashamed or having any kind of like internal conflict about what he's doing.
After the first kill, he does.
Yeah, that's true.
Like he goes, he vomits, he's sort of somewhat disgusted by what he's done. But then, I mean, after that first one, it became much easier, and he sort of, I don't want to say he went looking for trouble, but he certainly didn't shy away from it once it found him.
He kind of did though. Like after like he kind of like puts himself in different positions where he like thinks he's going to get attacked. Yeah.
Well, when people when someone attacks someone violently and they have like passion about it, it's creepy, but it's also like one of those things where like you get human nature coming out. When you have someone that's just like goes on a train, shoots somebody, and just leaves, there's something really scary about that you can just, it's like he's just going out to buy toilet paper,
Yeah. Well, that's the great part about casting Charles Bronson. He's like the perfect guy for that. Every movie the guy's in, he has really no like expression other than like just stoic anger. Like that's the only expression that he really has. So he's the perfect lead for this movie. But a background, like I'm imagining like most people have seen it, but Raggins, you hadn't seen it. So just to like sum up the plot of the movie real quick, it's not going to take long. So Paul Kersey, who's played by Charles Bronson, and his wife, who's played by Hope Lang, he's an architect, and he's out one day, and the wife and the daughter are at home, and a group of thugs break in that followed him from the grocery store, and they end up like beating him really badly, raping the daughter, and the wife dies. The daughter goes into like a vegetative state, like almost like she just can't deal with what happened. And he comes home and like finds out everything that's going on. And essentially like they can't find them. The police can't find any of the attackers or anything like that, which is an interesting point about this movie, by the way, to bring up, which is that none of the attackers get killed in this movie.
Yeah.
Which might be the only type of movie like this.
That was one of the things that bugged me. It's like, he went out killing people basically that would mug him, but he actually didn't get the people that hurt his family.
Exactly. Yeah. But it's kind of makes it more realistic because you fucking wouldn't really, would you? I mean, you're not going to run into those people, and you're not going to be an amateur detective or anything like in some of these other movies where you like track them down. But it does. Yeah. So it's the only movie I think in this whole category of movies that we're going to review today where nothing happens to the actual people that did the crime.
From what I saw, it did happen. He did find them. So this is like 2 out of 3 alternate endings where in one ending he does find them. He gets into like altercation, but he dies. So they end up getting him, and it was kind of all for nothing. And then there was another ending where I think he does get them, and like they kill each other, and then like what's the cop? I can't remember the cop's name who's like on his trail the whole time. He finds the gun that Kersey's using, and then he wants to sort of take up the mantle of becoming vigilante. Well, they implant the idea that he possibly might want to do it as well, just because of what happened.
Wow,
man.
So that guy's amazing. Though. Vincent Gardenia, I believe is his actual name, but I don't know like I can't remember what his character name is in the movie. Here's my question about that guy, and I'm dying to know this, and I couldn't find any information about that. Who the fuck thought it would be a good idea to give him like allergies and shit? Like that's his only, that's his gimmick, is that he's got fucking really bad either a cold or allergies through the whole film. All he's doing in the film is like blowing his nose, sneezing, like using inhalers, and It's like, why would any of that be necessary for this movie?
Random.
I
Did y'all
just
feel
wanna-
like? Did y'all feel like maybe in the movie Paul that he killed way more people than it showed? Because you know how they're talking about the crime rates going down.
Mhm.
Did you get that feeling that maybe like they were saying like he's killing so many people they're just not showing it all, or was he just killing the people on screen?
I mean, it's either that or just the fact that because the criminals are scared,
Yeah,
that the rate of crime is decreasing. That's the
And
only
then-
other thing I could think of.
You see
Yeah.
the thing too, where the lady uses the hat. So you get the idea that maybe like other people are starting to do that as well, and that might be helping to like bring the crime rate down. Meaning
Mhm.
like taking on like the criminals and things like that. Which it's an interesting idea that this movie kind of plays with in terms of like, you know, would that actually work? I mean, the movie like posits that it would because they're saying like the crime rate goes down after he starts killing all these people. The idea of that actually working, I'm not so sure if that would play out in reality that way.
Or the fact that he may be inspiring other people to lean into vigilantism. I think that's a theme of the second book, which is Death Sentence.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It has a vigilante versus vigilante story. So Kersey goes into a new city. He starts to take up his old habits with taking out bad guys. And then another vigilante sort of does the same thing. But then I think he may slip up and kill somebody who isn't a vigilante and he becomes a little bit more reckless. So it's like the two of them versus each other. But yeah, that's just the book. They didn't do that for the second movie, thankfully. I don't think that would have been good. I like the just Kersey going out and just doing his
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, I know that the author was not pleased with this movie because like it depicts vigilantism as a good thing, really. Like that's kind of what you take away from the movie.
Yeah.
And he wanted it depicted more of like completely the opposite. Like
Yeah,
it just ends badly.
The
Like,
first book was supposed to be like
Yeah.
somewhat of an anti-vigilante message, but I mean there was quite a few changes done at the request of Bronson. So I know like his occupation, he was an accountant before.
Yeah.
Um,
They wanted this I don't know why it struck me as funny as hell though. They wanted Jack Lemmon to play
what?
the role of Paul Kersey. And I
That's
was
an
like,
interesting casting choice.
so you can imagine. I mean, you got to imagine like what that movie would be like, because he was an accountant. He was like a mild mannered accountant. He didn't have any kind of physical prowess or anything like that. That's kind of like the what they were going for, and that would have been a totally different fucking movie. Can only imagine.
yeah,
Oh.
there were a couple of other casting choices that I just kind of laughed at. I'm like, that would have. It's just not the same. Like Bronson just brought like you guys mentioned earlier, this stoic quality that permeates throughout all of the movies. Actually,
Yeah.
it just works.
I tell you though, so when the film kicks off, like, and this is a scene that stuck with me forever too, because especially for 1974, man, when this fucking movie came out, like this is kind of insane. Is the rape sequence and all that? Jesus Christ! Like you would think they would like try to leave something to the imagination, but Jeff
Yeah.
Goldblum in his debut role, by the way,
Using a
goes
paintbrush.
goes off. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
He's,
wasn't it they say that Michael Winter was kind of like sadistic too as a director? I
I
always
heard
heard
that.
he was
Yeah.
kind of crazy.
Well, there's a lot like he would I don't remember if it was Hope Lang or somebody else said that like whenever women would come in, like he would basically make them like turn around, check them out, like, you know, creepy kind of shit, like before they got cast and all this stuff. That kind of guy. So I'm sure he was a little bit off kilter. and
That's
maybe not the best
probably
dude.
why Bronson didn't want his wife in the movie.
No, he
She
didn't want his
was-
wife in the movie because he didn't want to get the implied piss,
yeah,
whatever, from what I can understand.
but then she ends up being his wife in the second movie. So
Yeah, it made a lot of money. So that money changes things.
yeah,
I guess, yeah.
But that scene was always like I can always remember that scene because it's so like hard. It's akin to me to like Last House on the Left. Like it's the same type of brutal kind of scene where they really don't hold anything back with the dialogue or what's shown or anything like that. Really.
Mhm.
I don't know. That scene just fucks with me still. So moving forward though, you've got like he goes out first and he kind of like he's just carrying like quarters around in a sock basically just to protect himself. He whacks somebody in the face with it. And this was kind of a cool move. He gets pictures that were taken of him and his wife before all this happened. They get developed and sent to him, and when he sees those pictures, he's like, that's kind of the switch, I guess, where he's like, fuck it. And he gets the gun, and that's where the movie really kind of starts. And it has some great action sequences in it too. Like some great like thug shootout sequences as well, especially the one where he's on the subway train and he's got
Yeah.
like the newspaper in front of him and the guy walks up to him.
And he just
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. Norman Reedus is Charles Bronson's nephew. They basically look alike, if that's true.
Yeah, I noticed also the
They look
gun
like the
he's
same
got.
person.
I think it's weird. I think he's got like a 32 revolver, which is
Yeah.
the same gun that Loomis has in Halloween. That must have been like a popular revolver back then, because that's not something I've ever seen.
They don't even. I don't think they
32.
make. I don't think they make a 32 anymore. If they do, like they're
Mhm.
incredibly hard to find. A 32 is like be a stupid gun for self-defense, really, because it's
Yeah.
essentially like a little bit bigger than a 22, like or 20, a little bit lower than a 38, in other words. But like, it's not a big round.
it's basically enough to either piss off somebody or
Yeah.
enough to like wound them or scare them enough to make them run off, basically.
But it would not do the type of damage that he like. You wouldn't
No.
be shooting somebody one fucking time and then them going down like in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
No.
Mhm.
But that's neither here nor there. I don't think that you're really going for that. So yeah, he goes forward. He just starts like killing a bunch of people, and then the press catches on, and they kind of dub him like this hero, and they're talking about like vigilante justice, might be working to help lower the crime rates in the city. And in probably one of the most realistic parts of the movie, the mayor and everybody get involved, and they basically tell like the police, "Hey, like we want to keep it like this.
Mhm.
Like you can't arrest this guy, like because we actually like want to, keep things going the way that they are, like keep people thinking the crime rates are going down." But and I couldn't really work out this part in my head, but they don't want him arrested, but they want him to stop. They want him to basically just leave,
Mhm.
but they don't want to do anything about it. So I guess they said they didn't want a martyr, but they also it's an odd explanation, I guess, to me.
Yeah, it is kind of weird that they would just let this guy go after all of these murders. I mean, I don't even see the point in chasing him the whole movie if you're just going to let him go anyway. You might as well just leave him alone and let him just keep doing his thing.
You know what's weird though, man? I was thinking about this today too, though. Almost every one of these killings would be justified like self-defense killings now. Like
Yeah.
everybody pulls
Yeah.
a knife on him or a gun or something. I mean, he
Yeah.
would be justified in like almost all these killings.
Mhm.
What is it called? The stand your ground law?
ground. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably not in New York or California would be so, but I'm saying in Texas or places like that, he definitely.
Oh yeah.
But that's neither here nor there.
One of my favorite scenes was there's like this elderly man who's getting assaulted by like these three gangsters, some in an alleyway, and he comes down the alleyway and basically kills them all. And he runs off, and the cops are, asking the old man, like, you saw him, like, what he looked like, etc. And he's like, no, I didn't see nobody. I didn't see anybody. And the detective's like, you lie.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that happens all the time. Like, I mean, someone's going to lie about something like that.
Yeah.
We talk about in a minute like how great the detective was, though. Other than the whole sinus issues, like he was amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, he's spot on perfect for the role, really. Especially in the scene where he confronts him and he tells him that, he knows that it's him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he basically has to leave, get out of town and all that. That's just a great scene towards the end of the movie. I thought he was perfect, though. Like, just the way that he handled himself. He goes around and he's this is before like DNA or all that stuff. So he's basically like running down like, what block this was at, what grocery store that they went to beforehand, like who could have been around, like trying to single it down to a particular family that lost somebody or something.
Profiling, yeah.
Yeah, profile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
It was great though. I love the guy in the role.
You got to think like 70s New York, man. Holy shit. It's everything I've read about and seen about it. It wasn't that much different than the way it is in a lot of these films. I mean, it was a cesspool. You had serial killers and murders and just like it was. I mean, it's dangerous now, but fuck, I would not have wanted to live in New York in the 70s. There's like no way.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's like some of the stuff I was watching, I was like, well, this is kind of silly, but I'm betting that was probably fucking pretty accurate at that time period. Like all the knives people had and the switchblades and all that stuff, like almost everybody was. I'll bet that was fairly accurate for that time period, like more so than we would think,
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, bringing a knife to a gunfight and all that.
Yeah, I was looking into like gun laws in New York just out of curiosity because I was curious like how like permanent stuff work in that state after watching, Vigilante and Death Wish. And apparently, like for pistols, you have to have a special license for those. And then like shotguns and rifles, you have to have a different license for those, apparently. It ain't like, one license works for all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which, I mean, it definitely would help to explain a lot of that, really.
Oh, yeah.
And also the idea of like him not even buying the gun, him just kind of like getting it gifted to him. Yeah.
Yeah.
So ultimately, like heading towards like the end of the movie, I don't know how many people he kills, 10 or 11, like something crazy like that. Like,
Yeah.
You go towards the end of the film, he gets shot and he shoots the guy. He shoot him or he shoots at him.
Oh,
and
at the end?
He shoots him. He gets away.
He kind of gets away. And then the detective finally, like, who's been tracking him down this whole time, finally, catches up with him. And did you notice, by the way, that's fucking, oh God, what is that guy's name from Spinal Tap? That's like the cop.
Christopher Guest.
Christopher Guest.
Yeah.
Guest is just like he's got like a 30-second scene where he's just like, I found this gun, and he hands him the gun, and like, and then Sidney's like, Vincent Gardini's like, you never saw it, and then that's it. That's his whole scene. Like, that has to be one of his earliest roles, like possibly his debut and anything. So they find the gun and they know who it is, but the detective just goes to him and is kind of like, get the fuck out of town and we'll just like drop this in the river and forget that any of this ever happened. And there's a great scene at the end of this movie, and Rackens, you alluded to it too, where he's like, he's off somewhere. I think he's in another town or something by that point. He sees like something like happening with these guys. He just kind of looks at them and does the,
Yeah, he flies into like Chicago because he's told to get out of town, and as he's greeting someone who's like meeting him there at the airport, there's like a woman getting harassed by like a bunch of, I guess, hoodlums or thugs, whatever, and he helps her get her stuff, and then that's when he does the whole thing.
Yeah. Which is probably my favorite ending to any of these movies, because it implies like he has no desire to stop. Like he's going to just keep doing the exact same thing.
The ending on the next one kind of cracks me up a little
Me
bit.
too. Yeah. But overall, though, like in relationship to the other movies like this, like what are your all thoughts about Death Wish? Like in relation to the others that we're going to review, and also in relation to like the other ones in the series. I know, like, after watching this again, I don't know. Like the third one is my favorite, but I agree with what a lot of people are saying. Like where it's like the first one is by far the most realistic. It's not like a cartoon. It's like an actual scenario that could happen. Other than the fact that nobody in this movie can shoot worth a shit, except for Charles Bronson. But
who hasn't shot a gun in like 20 plus years beforehand.
Right.
He's like Laurie Strode at the end of Halloween 2. All of a
Yeah.
sudden, she's fucking John Wick.
That's
Just
right.
shoots him in the eyes first try.
Yeah,
But
this
yeah.
movie definitely could have been a standalone. I mean, I think it's the best of the series, like as a film, but it's my favorite's definitely 3 and 4. I just love those, but this is one of those that it could have just ended like Rambo First Blood, like you just never make a sequel. But
Yeah.
I mean, they saw a franchise opportunity. I understand what they're doing, but it's just not really even the same. By the time you get to 3, it's like it's totally a different thing, right? So
Yeah.
It's kind of like becomes its own. It's the same thing with Rocky, like you were saying too. By the time you get to 4, it's like a fucking cartoon. Like you're just dealing with,
mhm.
like stereotypes and stuff. Same thing with these movies. By the time you get to 5 in this one, in Death Wish, I was like, Jesus Christ, how this series is like falling off. I love the villain in that movie, but it's bad by that point.
I definitely need to check
Yeah.
out the rest of them, especially if it's true what you guys are saying.
You got to check out if for like cartoonishness, 3 and 5 are like the most just
Yeah.
batshit. And 2 is great. 2 is actually great. Like
Oh,
in
yeah.
a real sense. Like it's before it gets too kind of out there.
Yeah, it still has a touch of like that dark atmosphere that is in the first movie. I mean, the setting's different, but like it's still very much like true exploitive in terms of like just violence and it's just a lot more gritty. The third movie, I think that they're leaning into like they want the audience to have a bit more fun with the character.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still a lot of violence, but it's played up a lot differently.
Yeah, it's like
after
he
the
turns
second
into
movie.
Freddy Krueger in the
That's a great
the
example.
Nightmare on Elm Street films.
yeah.
He's quipping and
Oh,
shit about
goodness.
everything, and like
Yeah,
he's shooting people and has one-liners and shit for everything.
exactly.
He goes from a 32 to like a rocket launcher.
Good
Yeah.
God.
Yeah,
It's like, wow.
He gets like a through the mail. What is it, like a 44 automatic or something through the mail?
Mhm.
I think, or something. And then he
What
gets like a
the
fucking
hell?
rocket launcher.
yeah. That's what's great about the fourth one too. Is like the rich guys, like, well, they killed my daughter. I know what you can do. I'll pay you whatever you want, and I'll give you a huge arsenal of any gun you want. So he has access to like everything. And that fourth one is really, really awesome. I love the fourth one a lot.
They're all really good in their own way. I mean, the fifth one is questionable, but I like you'll like it just because of the villain. Who is that guy? I can never
Michael
remember
Parks.
his name. Michael Parks. Yeah, he's great. So overall, yeah, I would give this movie like, I don't know, like an 8 out of 10. Like it has like a feel to it that's really hard to put your finger on. Looks like almost like the French Connection or something. A little bit more polished than that, but still the same type of like feeling to it where it feels like it could actually happen.
Mhm.
I guess maybe like documentary film style kind of shit is what I'm looking for. It has that same kind of vibe to it, especially the rape sequence where you unfortunately feel like you're really there.
Yeah. The
But
second movie, that rape scene in the second one, I think is even more violent.
I
It's a
didn't
lot
even-
more graphic.
I didn't even think about that, but you're right. Like they wanted to up the ante on the first
Oh,
one.
yeah.
Jesus. So real quick though, this movie had a $3 million budget and made 7 times that, basically, if you consider it made $22 million. So for that time period, especially, it was hugely popular. It's one of the only films where they raised the price of tickets for the film because so many people were going to see it that they wanted to like
Damn.
capitalize on that trend. It also apparently inspired like real life vigilantism, which is kind of funny.
Wow.
For a brief period of time, there's one guy in particular, I was reading a story about it where he like was on a subway, somebody started hassling him and he shot like 3 people and just walked off.
Jesus.
Which is very much like this film. So yeah, I don't know. Great film though.
Mhm.
The whole series, we probably could have done like a whole fucking breakdown of every Death Wish movie, really. And that would have been awesome. That may be one. But possibly, I don't know, possibly one that rivals this one in terms of like how much I like it is the next one that we're going to talk about, which is 1982's Vigilante, directed by William Lustig, which William Lustig himself has said is basically like ripping off Death Wish. So it's just like maybe like a lower budget, independent Death Wish. Here's the deal, though. It's probably better acted overall than Death Wish, in my opinion. Like Robert Forster and especially Fred Williamson are fucking amazing in this movie. It has the best intro of any of these movies, too. An amazing intro where Fred Williamson is basically like doing a monologue about crime and like what it, you know, you got to like take things in your own hands, and then it just cuts into the credits, which is just badass, really.
And of course, you got that small role of Spinell in it as the defendant's lawyer.
Yes,
Like, super sleazy as always.
he looks like a lawyer and like it's just like sweating profusely. You know, he just did an 8-ball before that scene.
He had to have
No,
been,
he
like, a
did.
shot of something.
Oh yeah,
Lustig said that he did. Like Lustig said that like he was a problem the entire shoot. That
What,
he
what
would
about-
show up late. And then when he did show up, he was drunk. He was high. It took them a while to like set up shots or whatever for him because he just couldn't
I mean,
keep
I
his
knew
shit
it
together.
just by looking at him. Like you can just tell. Like anyway, before we get into this, though, let's real quick read some of these chat comments. I haven't even like had a chance to do that yet. Bronson speaks like 2 lines in Death Wish 3. Oh fuck, I forgot about this. The exploding soccer ball in Death Wish 5, which is amazing.
What
It's like
the
a remote
hell?
control fucking soccer ball.
Yeah,
Good lord.
10 to Midnight is great. I've got that one
It's a
too.
good one.
yep. Directed by J. Lee Thompson. who
475. You're
directed
right,
Death
Rambo. It
Wish
wasn't
4.
a 44. It's a 475 Wildy Magnum. Yep, that he gets sent. That's MacBoy Color. Part 2 is the most brutal. Several people are saying that. It's brutal and badass. Oh, Big Van Vader's in here, bulls. I just want you to know. It's the Big Van Vader bot. He's spelling this like
What the hell?
Jesus. That's amazing.
Oh,
I would love it if there's a Big Van Vader bot for real. Yes, I believe that's true, isn't it? Part 3 is the one that has Barbie Wilde, who played the female Cinnabot in Hellraiser 2. Because she's part of that gang, I'm pretty sure.
Mhm. So is Alex Winter.
Oh, that's right, yeah. So a lot of people have not seen Vigilante, and some people think it's great. Big Van Vader bot's back. And then I'm sorry, I know it's a spammer, but like I can't right now kick out Big Van Vader bot. It's too good of an idea. I'm gonna let it play out for a few minutes and then we'll just move on.
man.
Yeah, I guess this is kind of true. You can see in 5 how burnout Bronson is. He's already been through 4 families at that point.
Damn. He's like,
He's
I'm
like,
too old for
Jesus,
this shit.
why does this shit keep happening to me? It's like fucking Sidney Prescott and Scream. At some point, you just got to be like, what the fuck has my life become?
Mhm.
Okay, so now we can. I think that's good for the comment section. Rambo says, I enjoy Vigilante, but I wish Robert Forster had more to do in it. He doesn't really do much. I feel like that he's supposed to be like the Charles Bronson role.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
just mainly quiet, but kind of like the badass of the film, really. I'm gonna let you guys take this one too, because I just watched this movie. I love this movie, but I want to hear some of your all's opinions on Vigilante.
I saw this. I think I may have seen it after CK talked about it once. I remember he brought it up a few years back, and I'd heard of it. And it's definitely my favorite William Lustig film. Like, it's everything about this movie, like the way it's shot, the opening, the feel. It's like he wanted to make exploitation movie that was like yeah, we're gonna get these motherfuckers. Like that you can tell when he makes this movie, he's like, this is not gonna be one of those you don't get the guys. No, we're gonna get them and we're gonna pay it off. Like
Yeah.
even at the end when he throws that dude off the building, it's like it's
Yeah.
awesome. It's just it's weird because it's a very dark, bleak film, like almost nihilistic, but there's something about it that's just really enjoyable. I don't know if that just makes me a crazy man. I just something about the movie every time I watch it, it's almost like in a weird way, like uplifting because he just gets everybody. Like, and you kind of like that Fred Williamson is like kicking these guys' asses who were like creeps on the street, you know? So I love it.
I got to say too, you got to have like, for that payoff to work, the stakes had to be really high, and they were really fucking high. Like by what happened to his family, I was like, Jesus. Like you think shit in Death Wish is bad, man. Like in this one, it's like they took it to a whole other level.
Only thing I can think of is that poor kid.
Yeah, man. It's like,
dude.
Like, holy shit. Like, I wasn't expecting that. And when it happens, I'm just like, damn, they went that far. But after watching this movie, I'd have to say easily this is my second favorite William Lustig movie. The only one that tops it is Maniac in my book.
yeah.
But the only problem...
Lustig did more than 3 films, man. Like, I promise you. It may seem like he only did 3 films, but...
did more. But the only problem I have with this movie and with Death Sentence is like how they try to play, which I get in a way, you know, oh, they're trying to make, you know, like the ball rolling or whatever with the whole movie, is just the fact that, oh, these guys, they're going to plead guilty in court and they're only going to get, you know, 5 to 7 years in prison. I'm like, what?
Right.
Like
that whole shit was a little...
Yeah.
That was far-fetched. I agree.
Yeah.
Super far-fetched because, like, you know, each states have mandatory sentences. Like, most murder, it's going to be like 20, 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're
and
guilty.
The fact that Joe Smell just kind of like walks in and he's like, hey, guys, fucking
yeah, it's all good.
Get in probation. It's like, no. I don't care how good of a lawyer Joe Spinelli is. Like, that's not really going to happen.
And how scary, like, I'm 39 and I'm 6'4", and I can tell you right now, I would never want to fuck with Fred Williamson. Like,
no.
He is like the most intimidating dude ever. Even in this movie, I'm just like, oh, I would never mess with this guy. You know,
he's like the most charismatic guy in this movie too, by far, by like a long shot. Like he's like the guy that stands out in the movie to me.
And that chase too that he does in that movie is great. Yeah. I mean, it really shows his whole, you know, football background coming into play.
Mm-hmm.
But all right, so here's a little bit of a backstory, real quick, on this one. It doesn't deviate much from Death Wish's backstory, by the way. So Robert Forster, family man, like enjoys his family, yada yada yada. One day he's out, he's talking to Fred Williamson when this happens, about like the crime problem in the city and things like that. And his wife has an altercation with a gang member. The whole fucking gang comes to the house and essentially like roughs her up in the beginning, but then one of the dudes, in what's possibly one of the most fucked up scenes in any film, like he's got, how old was the kid? Like
I think
3 or
5
4?
at most.
Yeah, 5 or 6.
It's like upstairs in like hiding in the bathtub from the attackers, and one of the attackers like takes a sawed-off shotgun and like shoots him through the, you don't see anything, but you see like the window behind him explode out with like blood and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then they try to kill the Robert Forster's wife, but like it doesn't work. She's basically in the hospital after that. So you got, and he kind of, same kind of thing. He kind of like, he wants to go through the legal system first and try to prosecute the guys. They arrest the guy in this one, take him to trial. Joe Spinell's a lawyer, and Joe Spinell, you know, he's the best fucking lawyer that you can buy.
Yeah.
Just by looking at him. And he gets some like probation. I'm pretty sure, like that's it, for murder.
Of a minor,
murdering
too.
a kid, an attempted murder of another person. He gets like 2 years suspended probation or something crazy. And Robert Forster this is a part that I thought was kind of trying to show like how fucked up the justice system is. So Robert Forster goes after the judge after that because of course he's like insane, like enraged, and he sentences him to prison. Which, by the way, if you get contempt of court, I'm pretty positive they don't send you to a maximum security fucking prison. Like you would just get sent to jail.
Yeah, like the county jail, and maybe
he ends up in like Alcatraz. It's like with these murders and shit.
That's true. That is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, they show the prison and it's like Shawshank Redemption, like the fucking like maximum security, like the most lockdown facility you can imagine for like contempt of court charges. So, yeah, I just thought that part was hilarious too. And then after that, that's when like he basically like decides to go the vigilante route and get up with Fred Williamson, and essentially they're the A team. That's the rest of the fucking movie. Like they're driving around in a van, like fucking criminals up, basically. So continue with thoughts for that, I guess.
Yeah, it's very like it kind of does turn into action beats, like especially that scene you're talking about where Fred Williamson's like running after the dude and jumps over the fence, and you know it kind of does turn into like some A-team type beats with it, and then they mix in some of the exploitation stuff, like when they hunt down the first guy that got away in court in the hotel room, which is like that's a great scene, just like the way it's lit.
Oh yeah,
and it's just so grim, and it's like I don't know the way they set that up. It's just it's kind of masterful in a way.
I love the car chase that they do against the cocaine dealer / pimp. And I love how, like, when the high beams kick on, how you get, like, that kind of cue, like, from Maniac. Like, the high beams when Disco Boy's about to get his head blown off. I love that.
Yeah, Lustig said that was his nod to the car chase in French Connection.
You can definitely tell, too, because, like, it almost plays out like that. I love it when he's, like, he gets in the car and, like, he's chasing him, and the guy's like, all right, you know, you want to do this? And then, like, it just picks up, like, right there, you know, the chase scene goes on forever. It's great too. It's filmed almost the same way, so it kind of feels real. Like the realism in that scene is great. My favorite scene personally though is the scene where he finally, like Forrester finally catches up with the guy that was like the lead gang member, the guy that goes to court, and he's in there and he's like, you know, you killed my son, and he starts to shoot him, but then like there's a girlfriend in the bathroom. That's right. She comes out, and I don't know how, like, in the same kind of way as like Ellen Burstyn in The Exorcist, somebody must have had a rope to her or something, and like she gets shot with a shotgun and like jerks back, like, fucking Matrix style through the bathroom. It's a great scene though. It's shot like really, really well. Like,
she hurt herself a little bit in that scene because she wasn't supposed to land as hard as she did, but Lustig said she was a trooper. She was just like, all right, what's next? She just got right back up after they did that take.
Yeah, and that's the scene, too, where that guy admits that he's not the one that didn't kill his son.
No. Yeah, well, he tells him that. That's the only way he knows, too. Like, right before he dies, he's like, it wasn't me. It was whoever the guy's name was. And then, so that leads to the kind of the next thing, which is finding that guy. And kind of chaos ensues. There's a lot of good, like, squib work in this movie too, especially in the scene. So there's a scene where after all that shit goes down, I think it's after Fred Williamson catches up with like one of the guys and hangs him out of a window and all that shit happens. And then the gang is like, I guess I think it's the police that are doing it. And so there's a great scene, man, where the police are kind of like rolling up, and they get a call of like some sort of like report of mischief or something like that. And it shows like the cop car kind of like pulling up, and you see it kind of pulling up further and further. And then like a van just cuts right in the middle of it. Van doors open, like all the vigilantes, all the like the criminals like open fire on them. And the squib work in that is insane. Like there's blood flying everywhere, and like their head, they had squibs on their head and everything. It's like,
yeah, they killed the guy from what was it? He was an American Ninja, right? Like what was it?
Was that
some of the sequels?
Was that the guy? The
cop? Yeah, I forget his name. Yeah,
I know exactly who you're talking about. I can't think of his name though.
One other cameo that I just noticed the first time was one of the gang members. You only see him a couple of times. It's Bronson from Street Trash, Vic Nato.
Oh, hell, I didn't know that.
He's only in like one scene, but you see him talking to the guy at the end that Robert Forster throws off the roof thing. And I'd never seen him in any other movie, but I just recognize his face. Like you can see him from the side. But,
Okay.
The only cameo I noticed was Spinell's mom, like right there in like the waiting room before they go to the courtroom. She's like sitting there like on a bench there.
I didn't notice that at all.
Yeah. That's her. And funny story, I heard that apparently when Spinell was late, she would basically go up to him and say, "Joey, you need to apologize. You would waste these people's times," and shit like that. Those stories I heard were just hilarious because he just got hit up on a coke ball and everything and drunk and whatnot from the night before and could be found for hours. And they tried to find him and shit.
Yeah.
So it's a damn shame that we're talking about. Like this was probably around 81, 82 when this was being, maybe early 82 when this. So he's already kind of like losing it at that point. You know what I mean? Like just kind of spiraling out of control.
Yeah.
I didn't love the ending of this movie, by the way. I'm just gonna fucking tell you, like this is not my favorite ending to any of these exploitation movies. So you go through the chase scene and he finally gets to the guy that killed his son, basically throws him off the top of like a scaffold or whatever, and his head explodes, which was killer. But the film ends with the judge who did the, light sentencing or whatever getting blown up in his car, and it just fucking ends. I'm like, I guess.
Yeah, he just drives away. Yeah.
You noticed the remote control though that he was using?
No, what? I didn't notice.
The remote control was the same remote control that earlier in the movie when him and his wife and kid were in the park that his kid and him were using to control the plane. It's the same one because it had like the tied ribbon on the end of it.
I didn't fucking even pay any attention to that, but you're right.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, that makes it kind of better now. That makes that ending kind of better to me. Hey, slightly. It's just so abrupt, though. Like, there's no like. The car blows up and he just drives off. The roll credits.
Yeah, they try to throw in some things in the dialogue to make it like there's the scene where he's talking to Fred Williamson and he's like, say I don't like this guy and I just want to shoot him. What makes me different than this person? And he's like, that's up to you to kind of figure out. So they try to make it a little smart, like that it's not like he's not, killing people is not good, obviously. So you can't just do what you want. But yeah.
Well, the progression, really, like the character arc, is basically he starts off as the voice of reason, and then he's kind of slowly driven into their world through all the shit that happens to him, which I guess is like what they were going, like in terms of the everyday person that goes to the justice system. It's kind of what they were hinting at with it. But I feel like maybe a lot more so than Death Wish, this movie's like a lot lighter on the message and more on like the action and just like fucking people up kind of stuff,
Yeah, heavier.
Which I'm fine with.
Heavier on the exploitation for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It came along at the right time. If you look at like how Lustig's career went up until that point, of course he had only done Maniac, but just everything that sort of shaped him as a filmmaker up until that point, and his backgrounds in like always being on 42nd Street and just soaking in all that stuff, and that definitely poured over into like his films. Even the scene you were talking about with Fred hanging the guy out the window, there was no wire work there. Like he's like Fred just held on to him really tight. That's it. Like, but it was.
To be fair, if anybody's going to do it, I feel like Fred Williamson could probably do it. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's that style of like I like to call guerrilla style filmmaking, where it's you just get it done. Like get the shot, go in. Who gives a shit about permits? Let's just get this movie made. Let's make it as entertaining as possible. I do
love that idea though. Like same thing with French Connection, where it's just kind of like just go in there. Like it's real independent filmmaking. Like,
that's what Freakin' did. Yeah.
You just go in, shoot stuff, get the hell out before anybody notices what's going on. Like, I mean,
Exactly.
you've got access to like the best. There's no better kind of set decoration than the real thing, you know. So just try to do it that way. I love this movie though. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I don't know if I like it more than Death Wish, but maybe I do. I don't even know. Like, it's a completely different style, really, but it's something about it appeals to me more than Death Wish because it's just so over the top and fucking more indie than even that movie was. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he was always left to his own devices. I mean, he didn't have like the studio exec breathing down his neck. He could just do whatever he wanted. So that definitely shows in the film, I think.
I mean, out of his discography, if you look at like, okay, so you got Maniac, you got Vigilante, you got all the Maniac cop films, you got Uncle Sam.
Uncle Sam.
I mean, that's in his discography. I'm sorry.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I do think this is, I love this as a Robert Forster film. He doesn't have a lot to do in it though. Like, I mean, I agree. He's kind of playing a minimal role. I mean, this is not like this is not the movie you watch if you want to see him act. Like, he does more in like Jackie Brown or like, what's that movie? There's a movie I watched recently where he's a cop and he's hunting down this serial killer who's like the banker, like Alligator, like those type of films. This is more of him playing Charles Bronson light. So
yeah. I'm not sure if he pulls off Bronson as well as Bronson, but like he's good. I mean, he's good in the time that he does have. Like, I mean, he is really good. The prison stuff is good. That's probably the most you really see of him, like, is throughout that time period. And then the court scene is great. There's one part of this that I feel like neither one of the main characters, like him or his wife, acted like somebody whose son just got like exploded would act. Like, essentially, he never really gets upset about it at all until the courtroom scene. Like, he's just absolutely like doesn't seem bothered by it. And then she's just like, you know what? Like, I really don't fucking like you, and we're getting a divorce. It's like, what? Like she wakes up from the hospital and is just like, fuck you. That's really what happened.
Yeah. I think it's because she's so pissed because she tried to call him and everything and couldn't get a hold of him. I think that's what it boils down to.
Well, that's kind of shitty. It's not like there's cell phones.
Right. I wasn't there was those back
like the
then.
dude wanted his son to explode. Like, god damn.
Yeah, that scene, like where he's packing up his shit from the house, is kind of depressing.
That whole scene in the hospital, I'm like, this is the weirdest scene to tack in there. But I guess it just serves to move the plot along where he's lost everything, like, and he just kind of doesn't give a shit anymore. But like that scene where she's just like, I don't feel anything about us anymore, and I just want you to leave and get the hell away from me, and some shit. It's like,
damn.
Okay. Whenever you want to take it. Okay. Let's see what we got in the chat. Jake says Vigilante is the last gritty, lustig film. Everything he did after that feels polished. Maniac Cop especially. Mayor's been wanting to get that on 4K for a while. Is that on 4K? I've got the Blu-ray. Yeah. Let me tell you something about that fucking Blu-ray too. That Blu-ray puts about 90% of any new Blu-rays to shame. Like, that Blu-ray looks amazing. I was absolutely like blown away by how good that looks. That's probably 15 years old or something. Like,
wow,
it still holds up.
Nice.
The Blue Underground one. My enjoyment of Vigilante is more vibes, aesthetic based. It's definitely got that in spades.
I can see that because it's very. I mean, I definitely see what you guys are saying. There's a lot of silly shit in the movie for sure. It's more. It definitely has more of like an exploitation vibe. Death Wish feels more like a crime 70s drama type. This feels more just like a sleazy type exploitation film.
Yeah. Lustig loves his car chases. Vigilantes is great, but Maniac Cop 2 tops it.
Yeah, are you talking about the one, I guess, like where she's handcuffed and everything. Yeah, that's a good one.
Steve James is the guy that we were looking for earlier. The guy from American Ninja. I miss the days when movies just ended. Modern films overly rely on epilogues and shit like that.
Or they just abruptly end, like when you don't expect it.
I didn't mind the fact that it abruptly ended. I just minded the
Right.
fact that like it's an odd abrupt ending.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like to blow the judge up, I guess that's fine, but
I mean, that's basically taking care of everybody that
Yeah.
you know done him wrong, essentially. So
Yeah.
you know,
I feel like there should have been something where they circle back around maybe to their relationship or something, and he went over to the house and she was like, "Fuck you, get out."
at least it's
I
not
still
like
hate you.
at least like the last horror film, like where randomly Joe Spinell and his mom are smoking a joint. And you're just like, what?
Yeah, exactly. That's a great ending. By
It
the way.
is
That's
great,
fucking-
but it's
that
like
ending.
like wait, what?
That ending might be one of the best. Let's see. I didn't know this. Rambo says that Lustig was making the film The Expect with Jeff Speakman and then got fired halfway through. The Expert. Okay. The Expert with Jeff Speakman. I love Jeff Speakman and I love Bill Lustig, so I would have loved to have seen that movie. Robert Forster was great in Breaking Bad and Jackie Brown. Yep, I agree.
Yep.
You can check out the review I guess CK did of 4K Vigilante. It's up on
Nice.
YouTube. Yep. Basically, this is it. Explosion, smash cut to credits.
Yeah.
All right.
There was I don't know if you guys heard about this. There was an interview with Bill Lustig, and someone was, I don't remember if it was on a Blu-ray or someone was talking about Joe Spinell, and he was talking about how like one day it was like 7 a.m. and Joe Spinell knocked on his like door and came in. And he was like, let's go get some breakfast. I'm hungry. And he's like, okay, we'll go get breakfast. And he said he's like getting ready. And Joe Spinell's like snorting Coke on the table. And he's like, Joe, it's like 7:05 a.m. What are you doing? And that was just like how he was. Like he was just always, you know, crazy.
It makes me he's like, I'm Joe Spinell, and buddy, this is what I do.
It's
Yeah.
the breakfast of champions.
Yeah.
Oh, man. But they said he was like a really good. Everybody said he was like such a good guy. From what I've heard, like really
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. He's supposed to have been awesome. He just fucking was crazy on drugs, man.
Yeah,
Like,
and he was
Yeah.
at like the strip clubs or the bars late at night, and be passing out in you know, hotel lobbies. There was one story I heard like where he was wearing like some outfit of his mom's, drinking at a bar because the bar had like kicked him out and like basically like wouldn't let him come back. So he dressed up like a woman basically so he can go back and drink.
ain't no way that would have worked, man.
No
Joe
way.
Spinell is a woman. Like, no.
I heard
Oh,
on like
God.
a extra somewhere. I think it was on the Undertaker Blu-ray from Vinegar Syndrome. As a
I want.
bonus.
Oh, I can only imagine what that would be like to see that.
Yeah. Lustig has some great stories about Spinell.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's so many, like, even for like Vigilante, like he said, they were trying to find Spinell like so often. They knew like all the local like bars and stuff that he liked to hang out in. He'd send people to strip clubs, all the common places that Spinell would be just to find him so they could shoot a few scenes. Like, it just become like routine at that point.
Damn.
He only really has like 1 5-minute scene, maybe in that movie too. Like,
Mhm.
Jesus.
Yeah, the courtroom scene, I think,
Yeah.
and then the bathroom scene, I
Yep.
guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
And one of the things too that I heard was like he would randomly be talking to girls and people like at the bars. He'd be like, oh yeah, you know, you want to be in a movie? Okay, we'll get you in a movie. And random people would show up on set that apparently like he would help try to get in the business that he met at bars.
sounds like, yeah.
You know, and the thing about him is he was so good. Every role he's ever in, even
Oh,
if
yeah.
it's like even like in Sorcerer, he's the pilot for like he's so good as an actor, but he just never, you know, he was always that character guy. But
I love him in the Ninth Configuration.
mhm.
He's that one soldier that like I can't remember exactly what it was, but was he like the one that would always like help this other one who was trying to find like something? I can't remember what it was, but like it was the dogs. It was the dogs in the whole like theater show or whatever, and he was always trying to find the dogs for that one.
I mean, yeah, I mean, he's actually like for what the 5 minutes that he has in this, he's pretty good in this movie too.
Yeah.
He finally learned how to count using the money. So, all right. So Vigilantes, it's great. It's different, but it's great. The last one is one that's probably the least known, maybe of any of these movies, to be honest. Nobody ever references this movie anymore. I saw it in the theaters when it came out. It's not on anything. It's on DVD still. Like, it's not on Blu-ray.
Was there anybody there?
I don't think so. I don't remember there being a crowd. No.
Yeah, there was like, I'll never forget that. There was like 3, maybe 4 people in the theater when I went to go see it. And I was so surprised because I'm like, why aren't more people here? Like this, I guess they didn't have any clue as to what Death Sentence was going to be, but still, like, it just, I mean, it's Kevin Bacon killing people. What's wrong with that? Like,
yeah, what's not to like? Yeah,
exactly.
It's just odd though, because it's almost like it disappeared, like it never happened. Still to this day, like, it doesn't get referenced any. But yeah, Death Sentence from 2007. This would have been 2 years after we started doing the show. I can't remember. I think we reviewed this at some point or talked about it. It seems like we did, because I think that we went and saw it. I don't know if we were doing the On the Roads then. If Wes is still in here, he'd probably say if we did an On the Road for this or not. But like, I do remember seeing this movie. So it's like explaining these 3 movies is basically explaining the same movie, like in just different ways. So Kevin Bacon is a risk assessment manager, basically, and he is, he's got a family. He's got 2 sons and a wife. His wife is Kelly Preston, who sadly passed away, I think, a couple of years after this movie, like 2012 or something like that. Like, it wasn't that far in the future that she passed away. And one of them is playing hockey. And he has a hockey game out in the middle of the city where they don't usually go, I guess. And they stop at a gas station. Prior to that, there's the old like gag where, you shine your headlights on somebody and it's like a gang thing, and they come back and like, try to take. There's an urban legend about that. So they're at the gas station, and
the seediest gas station ever.
Yeah, ever, yeah. And essentially, this gang comes up and kills his son. And I would have thought they would have just shot him, but they use a machete to fucking like cut his throat. And then Kevin Bacon slowly loses his mind, essentially. But also, well, I'll get to this in a minute. Because there's a whole second fucking part of this movie where I was like, Jesus, dude, like, hasn't the guy been through enough? Like, but no. So I'm really curious to hear y'all's thoughts about this movie, because nobody really talks about this movie. So
I like it. I've seen it just a couple times. I mean, the thing that I think it's really like well shot. I love the continuous shot in the parking lot. That's like great when he's the big chase scene. The thing about it that I don't really like is that it just kind of gets a little bit absurd with the whole tit for tat thing. Like, it's a cool story, and it does have a cool story. And the end of it, like the last scene is kind of interesting, how what happens to both of them, the gang leader and Kevin Bacon. But I don't know. I just found it was like, watching it again now, I was like, you're telling me like all this is going to happen? These cops, I mean, I don't know. I just, the realism was kind of like, that's the only thing that took me out of it a bit. But I mean, I do enjoy it. That's the one thing compared to the other 2 films where I was like, I don't know. I felt like it just got a little bit too ridiculous. The whole, you kill my family, I'm going to kill yours thing,
it tonally, I don't think it knew what the fuck it was doing. Like it never really seemed to settle on one like tone that it wanted to be. Was it like, did it want to be for vigilantism? Did it want to be against it? Did it want? There's messages in it, like really heavy-handed kind of messages, but like they don't
Yeah.
make sense.
Mhm.
Like, it's like he's trying to make a statement, but it just doesn't. It doesn't work. Like where the other films, like you weren't really trying to make a statement, but they made a
Mhm.
statement.
Mhm.
And in this, it's kind of like there's too much exposition and shit.
Yeah, he should have just went for it. I mean, like, okay, you're not going to adapt the book. No problem with that. I don't care. But just have a straightforward vigilante film. Like you don't need a message. Just go with it. Just be a vigilante movie. Yeah, that's if I do have a complaint, that would be mine as well. Like I don't think we need a message. Like that's not these type of movies don't really need a message in my opinion. Like just go for it.
Yeah, and Kevin Bacon's reactions to all this shit were kind of odd too. Like in the same way that Robert Forster was, but in this one, it's more like I mean, he does have more of kind of a reaction, but I I don't know. It just the whole thing struck me as off somehow or another. Like I like Kevin Bacon as an actor, but I don't. It didn't feel like he knew what exactly he wanted to do, how he wanted to play this all the way through this movie.
Yeah, I kind of got that vibe, especially like when he's in the whole garage right before he goes to take his revenge the first time. And, like he's looking at weapons, trying to figure out like, oh, you know, maybe this knife,
Yeah.
this, you know, he's thinking about that. And then same thing later on with the guns. Like first 1 minute, you know, he's like sloppily, you know, putting bullets in and cartridges are shooting back at him and stuff. And then later he's somehow magically, boom, like, okay, I'm a badass. I can shoot and everything. Like,
Well, that's
whoa.
the most unrealistic part of this movie to me. Is the fact that like because I think he was trying to come off as conflicted, but he comes off as just like confused and kind of fucking moronic, stupid. Like
Mhm.
that, you know, just seems to be the case. But like so he basically learns everything there is to learn about like pistols and a shotgun and everything in like literally 20 minutes. He's got a man. Somebody gave him a manual.
Yeah.
John Goodman, by the way,
Goodman.
in the
Yeah.
worst miscast, one of the most miscast roles ever, is playing like a. Is he supposed to be from the Bronx or something?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I guess so.
that
He's a-
accent.
He's a gun dealer, like a legal gun dealer who owns like a mechanic's garage who sells guns out the back.
He's
Yeah.
so miscast in this.
I
movie,
love
though.
John Goodman, but I saw that and I was just like, what the hell is this?
And he wants him to get revenge, but then he doesn't. It's kind
Yeah.
of like you don't really
Stupid.
know
That
where he
part-
stands, you know?
Yeah,
He's
Yeah.
like,
part is
you're the one,
stupid.
you're the one's going to kill my son. Well, you know, if that's your biz, that's your biz. But don't ask me like where he's at, or I will put a bullet in you. It's like, what?
Yeah.
He's like, you just sold him all these guns and shit, and then he shows up at the, you know, to meet with his son. He's like, oh, I had to run off this guy that's after you. And it's like because it's bad for business.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you talking about?
I mean, you made like $5,000. Like, how was that bad for business?
Yeah. So it's like probably that was something about the script that didn't make sense and them trying to like fix it on the fly or something, because none of that made any sense. Like they should have just had a shootout with him and the dad, like after he buys the guns. That would have made more logical fucking sense. Like, but no. Anyway, so yeah, so he basically like goes after the main guy that killed his son, kills him, which starts like a gang war against him and his family. So they put a death sentence out on him and his family. That's where the title comes from. And it's supposedly like the Brian Garfield guy loved this fucking movie because it was more true to the fact of like supposedly trying to show vigilantism as like just being awful and like all this bad shit will happen to you if you try to do it, which it does, because in the second act of the movie, after his son's already been killed, then they come back and kill his wife and put his other son in a coma. And I'm like,
yeah. And he gets chased beforehand too, like through the whole town, like right after he gets off work, and the whole parking lot sequence stuff. And the one thing that made me go like, what the hell, is when the one comes up behind him who's about to actually put a bullet in him before the chase even starts. He hits him with that briefcase. His gun goes flying and hits the side of a building. Why wouldn't he just stop to grab the gun? Instead, he just runs off with his briefcase. Like, that made no sense to me.
There's a lot of stuff in this movie that doesn't make sense, really. Like, and it should have been a lot tighter of a film than this, considering like a James Wan. And somebody in here just said this, and it makes perfect. It's like he wanted to break away from horror films, but it's kind of like a half-assed attempt to break away from horror films, really. And I don't know if like he just took whatever to try to do it, but.
And that detective. She's like, he's in the coma.
God.
He comes out of it. He's gone through all this shit. And she's like, you see what you've done? You deserve it. And it's just like, what the fuck? Catch these fucking people. Like, what are you doing?
That's Aisha Tyler. I have no idea why she's in this fucking movie either. Yes. She's like just a bitch through the whole thing for no reason.
And the same thing like with Vigilante, the whole, the most that they're going to get is, X amount of years in prison, like 5, 2, whatever it is. And he literally is like, whatever, like, bye, see you. Like, he doesn't even try to take him to trial or nothing. He just, like, walks out of the courtroom and they dismiss the case. Like, what?
Well, that part I thought was pretty cool, though, because I think he made a decision, like, right there that he was
like there, like, he's going to go kill him.
Yeah. So that makes more sense to me than the other one where it's just like, I'll give him probation. Like, he blew a kid, like, halfway across the fucking yard, but...
Time served.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But... So Death Sentence is, I'm going to be honest, it's my least favorite. Like, I thought I liked it a lot more than I did when I went back and watched it, to be honest. Because there's plot holes you could drive a truck through in this fucking movie and stuff that doesn't make sense. And I don't like the lead villain. He's just a generic, like, tattooed up gang member guy. That, like, there's nothing really, like, unique about him. It's the ending is pretty good, like where he finally like makes his way through the apartment complex and all that shit. Yeah, that's actually pretty good. It's filmed pretty well, and it's got like a lot of cool like kind of death scenes in it for that time period, especially. But other than that, it's just I don't know. It just didn't work.
I did crack up whenever he goes and finds that one gang member that's like shooting up with his girlfriend in the apartment, and has him call the leader of the gang, letting him know basically he's still alive. And like right before like the call ends, he blows the dude's brains out. Like right there, and like he hears it through the phone. Like that was
that is a cool scene. Yeah,
great scene. Yeah, but yeah, the whole like mental ward as like your hideout where you're cooking drugs. That's kind of a weird, but I could sort of see it type of location. I don't know.
Something about this film, though. I think it was the fact that it had like 15 places where it could have ended and just never like settled on anything. And then like, so he goes, and the ending should have been they fucking just die on that chapel, in that chapel, and just
which was the alternate original ending for the movie.
That would have made a lot more sense than him like going home and sitting there and watching the video, and then the detective coming in and be like, by the way, your son's alive.
He literally looks like he should have been dead, if not like on the brink of death there, watching some videos how pale he was. Well, he literally got shot in the neck.
I think he's supposed to like the idea is that he finds his peace by like her saying that he's alive, so at least he avenged everyone, but he's just fine bleeding out. Like
good he's job not on like, him not having a dad forever now.
That's true. But he's not like, hey, take me to the hospital. I'm hurt. He doesn't say anything. He's just like watching his family. He's just at peace with the fact that like he got justice, at least in his mind.
It is. It's weird how they edit that ending with the guy where they're sitting on the bench and he's like, "You ready?" And it's almost like they're saying like, "Well, we're both equal here." It's like, I don't think so. I mean, one of you is a murderer. One of you got like it. That's if the message is you're both justified here, that's not the message they should be giving.
Yeah,
I just didn't get that.
The leader says something effective like, "You look pretty much like one of us."
Yeah,
because like they're like wearing the kind of same attire and basically doing the exact same thing. They're killing each other.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm talking about. Where clearly that's the message to this movie,
Mhm.
right? Like he turns into one of them. That's
Yeah.
what they wanted to fucking get across. It's a little too heavy-handed in this one. Like there's just people directly telling you what's going on, and I hate shit like that. When characters are like explaining like what's going on with other characters. So yeah, we get it. Like he turned into the bad guy, not Razor Ramon, but the literal bad guy. And like, yeah, I didn't like that. And you know, Jake in here saying that Goodman is more compelling as a villain than the actual gang leader. I thought he was goofy as shit. Like I didn't think that,
Yeah, the
that John
glasses
Goodman.
and
Yeah. How you
Yeah.
switching different glasses, like depending on like what's
Mhm.
going on.
yeah,
Like, oh, can I help you? What do you mean you're here to buy guns? Oh. Oh, you want to buy guns? Okay.
It's true. He's like this. He's like, I don't know you. Or
Yeah.
whatever. So, okay, it's an interesting character trait, I guess. Like,
Makes me think of like those people that are like at jobs like retail or something, and they're asked like, "Oh, you want to speak to the manager?" Okay, just like a complete like 180 or 360 spins around. It's like, "Oh, hi,
yeah,
I'm the manager.
Yeah.
How can I help you?"
yeah.
That's like what came to my mind.
Oh man. You know, the Silent Night movie this year from Christmas,
Mhm.
it kind of reminded me of this movie a bit. It's not a great movie, but I thought the premise and idea was fun. I need to rewatch it, but especially the ending, like when he's going through the factory, like it reminded me of this movie a bit by the end.
Yeah, it is very reminiscent of Death Sentence. Yeah.
I think I may have liked Silent Night a little bit better than Death Sentence upon rewatching it again. I don't know. I just felt like I enjoyed it so much more. Like maybe it's because there was nothing like that at that time, and like that was like a
Yeah, I think that
crazy
was.
kind of return to that kind of movie.
Mhm.
Ed says that it came out the same day as Zombies Halloween. Oh God.
Wow.
Oh yeah, that probably killed any kind of box office that it had. It's a shame because it's definitely a better movie than that. The ending of Death Sentence feels like it was influenced by Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
What the fuck? I come off my golden tower to spend time.
What?
I feel like I do more shows than anybody on here. Jesus. Can't please anybody. Rambo says, I like Death Sentence, but it doesn't pick what it wants to be. It wants to be heavily violent and stylistic, like a fun vigilante flick, but then it wants to be an anti-vigilante flick message. Exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
I thought about this one too, but I can't do Jodie Foster. Not seen this one, but the Brave one came out around the same time, which I thought was okay.
Oh yeah.
John Goodman's accent is so bad. And then this guy, Blu-ray, is like John Goodman's great in the film. It's just depending on how you look at it. Like I just thought it was ridiculous, but
I mean,
I
it
guess,
was nice to see John Goodman because I mean I do like John Goodman, but yeah, his portrayal wasn't that great.
And Kevin Bacon's one of those guys that I love him as an actor, but he
Mhm.
sometimes can, like in this movie, like there's something about his acting. Sometimes he can really ham up things with his expressions. I don't know what it is. It's just some roles he just goes too far with it, and I don't know. Maybe it's like a Nick Cage effect almost.
I think he can reel it back in better than Cage. Once Cage flies off the handle, there's no stopping him.
That's true.
Cage is just Cage.
Yeah, there's
I
only
think
one Cage.
I think in the beginning, you're right. Like he starts off, they really ham up the whole great father kids relationship, like really ham that part up.
Mm-hmm.
And then like when he gets to the vigilante part, like it's just like he I don't know if he just seems like he doesn't care. Like I don't know how to explain it. Like so it doesn't fit with the narrative of the story really. I don't know if it's just because he's trying to play it like he's emotionally just like numb or what they're going for there, but
yeah, man, like that whole bit, like when his son dies, like the effects of it, it's so damn depressing. Like, I mean, especially like that one bit, like when the other one, Lucas, goes back to the gas station and he's all like, what if it was me? Like, why couldn't it have been me? You and Mom would have been so much happier if it was me versus him. Like, damn.
There's a great scene in this movie though too, where they're just in bed, and it's like the day after the funeral, and they're talking about like that his team wants to do something for him or something, and they're just like, yeah, that's nice. Or it's just such a scene that probably would happen in a case like that. It's actually like the most realistic scene in this whole fucking movie, I think. And they're just kind of just still stunned by everything that's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when the brother goes into his brother's room and starts crying, I mean, I've kind of felt that personally because I mean I lost my brother years ago, so I get that.
Oh, just yeah. I did not realize that this movie was a bomb either.
Oh wow,
17 million at the box office on a $20 million budget. I guess that makes sense because it kind of got overshadowed by Halloween.
Yeah. And it seemed like it was gone out of the theaters fairly quickly.
Did y'all notice when this is an odd thing, I guess, but you notice when he shaved his head, he didn't shave all of his head?
Yeah.
Like, what was that about? Was he just like, not, it was like he left stuff on his head? I was like,
I guess they're just like, this is how little of a fuck he gives. Like,
Yeah,
he didn't
that's
even
what I
like
thought,
shave his
too.
whole head. Yeah.
And the whole like shooting scene too, like with the shotgun, I would have thought he would have shaved down the barrel on that because I mean a double barrel shotgun in a
I thought the
fight
same thing.
is so damn like difficult, especially when you're in close quarter combat. Because I mean the barrel alone is so freaking long. Like,
I thought the same thing when he's walking through the apartment and that fucking gun is like, 2 feet long.
Yeah.
On it, like trying to go around doors, but I mean, he should have known that he had the manuals. Like he had 20 minutes, and he apparently figured out how to shoot amazingly
I mean,
well.
he did have a vice. He could have just gotten a hacksaw from Home Depot and just shaved it down,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's true. Similar to Taxi Driver, Travis Bickle has bits of hair left.
okay.
Yeah, he does like a mohawk though. Travis Bickle does.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, like the author of the book that the movie was based on, loved this movie, I guess, because like they just hammer you over the fucking head with the fact that vigilantism is bad and like all this bad shit happens to him. That's kind of my least favorite part of the movie. Like everything bad happens to this guy, and then he just dies. And I mean, I don't know. I guess I like uplifting vigilante movies where people just get fucked up and there's like some redeeming quality at the end of it.
Yeah, and how lucky is he? Like in that parking lot, he gets in that car and gets out of that window like that. For someone who's just like a peaceful dude, like he is so lucky in this movie. The situations he gets out of.
Yeah, he like wraps that dude's neck up with the seatbelt.
Yeah.
Like what?
That was completely unnecessary too, because the car is just like explode. Like when it hits, the whole front end is crushed in.
Yeah, that's a great shot, though. I mean,
it is a great
the practical effect of it. Like it looks good.
By the way, though, like this is just nitpicky, but nobody ever asked like how he broke his fucking window. Remember, like there's the scene where he like the window of his car gets broken out and all that shit. Like nobody noticed that or thought that was anything to like ask about. And another thing too, what are the odds that a gang, you have like 2 police officers outside and a gang comes up and like slits their throats and like
that happens in like every horror movie though.
Like, yeah.
That's what it reminded me of. Yeah.
Anyway, Rambo says it makes sense that it bombed. What film did Kevin Bacon star as the lead that was a box office hit? It sure wasn't the air up there where he finds this basketball guy from the jungle. I think how did that one movie do?
Hollow Man,
Sixth Sense. Hollow Man did great. Yeah,
that did good.
There was like the Sixth Sense ripoff, or not a ripoff, but it was
Stir of Echoes.
Stir of Echoes. How did that do? That's pretty successful too, I feel like.
Yeah, it was a moderate success. Possibly even a sleeper hit. I don't remember it being a big deal when it came out. that probably got overshadowed by Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
Was Tremors really successful? I don't remember how much money it made.
It was very successful. I remember, like in home video.
Also, wasn't he in Mystic River, Kevin Bacon?
Yeah.
I know that was successful in
Oh,
terms of like because it's Scorsese. I'm pretty sure. Or was it Clint Eastwood? Who did
Clint.
direct Mystery? Okay.
Yeah, that's a great movie. That's quite a wild ending too to that movie, Mystic
Yeah.
River.
Stir of Echoes made 21 million at the box office on a $12 million budget. Tremors bombed in theaters. I didn't know that. No, no families get raped in Tremors. That's good. That's good to know. Oh. Hollow Man made 72 million on the US on a budget of 95 million. Well, damn. So, out of these movies, though, which one was your favorite? Which one would you say was your least favorite?
Death Sentence was easily my least favorite. I would say it's kind of a tie really between Death Wish and Vigilante, but I think Vigilante gets it just a little bit more than Death Wish for me.
I kind of agree with that. Pretty much exactly, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much the same. Vigilante's my favorite, and Death Sentence is the the worst, I think. But I think, as a movie, if you're just rating it as like a straight up film, I think Death Wish probably is the best. But my favorite's going to be Vigilante for sure.
Yeah, probably same. I mean, it just with Death Wish, it just has such a great that atmosphere, like that cold, dark 70s New York feel. That's just all throughout the movie. I love that so much. You don't get quite the same thing in Vigilante, but the exploitative nature of it it probably puts it up just slightly a bit more for me. So yeah, I'd probably agree.
So there's a couple things people brought up in the chat I wanted to ask you guys about. And the first one is like, what are your thoughts about the Death Wish remake with Bruce Willis?
I've never seen it. I've only seen just the original.
It's okay. I mean, it's by this point, like Bruce Willis is Bruce Willis in the movie. I mean, he's not acting. Like, I think the latter half of his career, that was the majority of even in the Expendables, everything he did, like, I would say maybe since like the last Die Hard movie, I guess that was like 2007, like right there and like on like everything he did, he was just Bruce Willis. And it's not Paul Kersey. Like, it's not, I mean, I know he's supposed to be the character, but it's like, I just see Bruce Willis shooting people. It doesn't have nearly the same amount of grit. The violence is there, which, I mean, Eli Roth can do that. We know that. Yeah. But I don't know. It's like, I don't, it's fine, but I don't go back to it often. I'd rather watch the first four. So.
Have you seen it, John?
No, I missed it. My friend likes it a little bit, but I just don't. I don't know. I was, when I saw it was Eli Roth, I was like, ugh. Thanksgiving turned me around for him. I mean, I think that's what Eli should have been doing all along. But yeah, I do want to watch it. It's just one of those I kind of figured wasn't great. So.
You really aren't missing anything. Like, honestly, the biggest problem with that movie, like Mark was saying, is Bruce Willis. Sadly, like, it's like you talk about somebody that cannot emote at all. Like, throughout that movie, like when his wife gets killed or anything, he's trying to act like he's upset, and it's the craziest thing. It's like if you were trying to teach a dog how to act like that. You know what I mean? It's like he can't pull it off. He just can't. He's trying to show human emotions, but he can't do it at all. And he just sleepwalks through that entire movie. Really bad. It's really. I mean, other than that, it's okay. Dean Norris is in it, and he's good. The guy from Breaking Bad. But Bruce Willis is just awful in that movie. Like, there's no There's no way around it. And then I was going to ask you guys too, because I think it was Rambo that was asking, like, oh, is there any newer vigilante style films that you love?
I mean, I love the movie Drive. It's not really a vigilante movie, but it's definitely like a crime. There's a lot of revenge stuff in that movie. That's probably my favorite modern film like that.
I didn't think about Drive, but yeah, that's great. Let's see. Any of y'all can think of?
I can't think of anything.
I can't think of anything. I mean, Silent Night was fine, but I wouldn't say I love it.
Same. Let's see. Mad Max that is true. I didn't think about that. It's kind of vigilante.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Law-abiding citizen. I haven't heard anybody reference that movie in forever.
Oh gosh, yeah, I haven't mentioned that one or heard that one in a minute.
So I was going to ask you guys too, because I'm planning like a part 2 of this as well, because there's way too many of these movies just to do like one part of this. So what do you think in terms of like a part 2 of this style vigilante films? Like what films would you want? Or could you think of from any time period that should be in it?
I'm not really sure because, I mean, well, we mentioned earlier stuff like Falling Down, and like that's kind of a film that's more in like a gray area of vigilantism. I mean, the idea of like going one from each decade is really nice, but there aren't, at least not that I can think of, there aren't too many from the 2000s. I mean, an entire show on the Death Wish sequels would be great. I'd definitely like to do that at some point. I don't know if you want to dedicate an entire show to that, though.
I just remembered one kind of newer one that I like, Mandy. Have you seen that one with Nicolas Cage?
Oh, Nick Cage, yeah.
Forgot about that.
It's a great one. Yeah, you could also, I don't know if you're thinking this, but I mean, you can always go the like revenge like style stuff like Savage Streets and
we're going rape revenge. That's the way I'm gonna. There's gonna be one show that's rape revenge movie. So you're gonna have, like, somebody mentioned Miss 45. You're gonna have Miss 45, Savage Streets, I Spit on Your Grave, like stuff like that. Yeah, that are gonna fall into that category as well.
Would the Bob Odenkirk film count? Nobody.
Oh Jesus,
That's kind of one.
Yeah.
Would you say like Boondock Saints would be? I mean, granted, they're not doing it like in revenge, like because they lost a family. They're doing like to cleanse the streets of like, you know, crime and stuff.
That's an interesting one. I haven't seen that movie in years either, by the way. That's back when Norman Jeebus was just Norman Jeebus, you know?
Right. I love William Dafoe as the detective in that movie.
Yeah,
Same.
yeah.
Billy Jack. I didn't. Billy Jack.
Oh, Miss 45. That's a good one.
That's a good one. Yeah, Kill Bill. Someone said that's kind of revenge. Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, people like put in your comments or put in the comments of this video like what you want to see. I'll think about, like, I'm gonna go for with just like probably Rape Revenge will be the next one of these that I do, which will focus on those type of movies, which are just rape revenge movies. So, you know, of course, like the classic, like we were talking about, Miss 45 is definitely going to be in there. I just actually bought the Blu-ray of that. I guess it's the German one. So I would have it to watch. I haven't seen that movie.
I just bought one recently that might fit into the category. I don't know if you'd want to do it because I know you don't like this actor. Oh, well, let me grab it.
It's fucking Tom Cruise. I'm gonna kill you.
No. It's not. It's not Tom Cruise.
It's Jake Gyllenhaal then.
It's got to be Jake.
No, it's not him either.
No, it was not Jake Gyllenhaal. Who's left?
I bought a bunch of stuff recently, but hold on one second. So this one, A Man Apart.
Oh God,
Vin Diesel.
Yeah,
It's fine.
Yeah. I mean, he's a cop, but like, he's definitely like not playing by the rules in the movie, and just killing all these guys. Like, it's really cool. And,
I've
I
never
got this
seen that.
too. Surviving the game. I just
Oh,
got
now
that.
that one,
That's a good
yeah,
one.
that's great. There's a whole weird subgenre of hunting human movies too. I don't know if that's
Mhm.
exploitation
Yeah.
or not, but like,
I mean, in a way, like it's not really revenge, but RoboCop kind of is that in a way. The way he gets
Yeah.
Clarence
It is,
Bodiger
yeah.
and all those guys.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that's not really. It's more of a sci-fi, like horror type action. But
it's hard to define exploitation too. I mean, because it's like different for different, people the way that they look at it. I've actually got this one coming. It might be a part of another film or another one of these
Siege
coming
is
up.
good.
Siege, yeah.
Mhm.
it's cool.
Tenement's another one.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you guys have seen Tenement, but that's a great one too. Revenge was good. I saw
Mhm.
that one on Shudder. Yeah. Well, all right then. There's a lot of options here. So if anybody wants to join on the Rape Revenge series, which will probably be in a week or two, I'm not sure which yet. No, have to be 2 weeks because I won't even be in town next fucking
Mm.
weekend. So 2 weeks from now, we'll do Rape and Revenge. If anybody wants to be on that one, I know I'm going to have Dana on that one because I swear to God, I don't know how many times she's mentioned I spit on your grave, but it's been at least 20 different occasions. So she's going to be in that show. We may have 4 or 5, but yeah, before we get off here, definitely like Alfa Romero mentioned, if that turns out to be the case, then rest in peace because that's awful. That would be the first guy out of that cast of the big names to pass away. So,
Mhm.
Anybody got anything coming up? Mark, you got any videos? John, anything going on?
I'm dropping the Death Wish collection video tonight. I've been holding on to it all week, and that will start a string of videos that I was going to put up this week, but I figured tonight would be a good kickoff point just because we're talking about Death Wish.
That collection thing that you've got is amazing too.
Yeah, it's I don't know why we don't get shit like that here in the US. Like everything's
It's only a matter of time before somebody figures it out. Like one
I
of those
hope
boutique
so.
labels. Yeah.
I don't really, nothing really coming up soon. I do a podcast called The Horror Sanctum with 3 other buds. We've been doing it for like a little over a year. We just did a show on Pan's Labyrinth. Trying to think of what we got coming up. I don't know. Lately, we've been reviewing a lot of bleak ass new movies, so I'm not really. I always like going back to old shit, but we've been reviewing like a lot of the newer stuff, like When Evil Lurks and stuff like that. So
That's pretty fucking bleak. Yeah.
yeah, I always like going back to the old shit, though. I don't know. That's kind of what I enjoy the most. But yeah,
Go
we
back
do
and
that.
watch Martyrs for fun.
Right.
The feel good hit of 2008. Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys coming on, though, man. Got so many different like categories and stuff lined up for this. I have no idea, as usual, what the next thing is that we're doing. Actually, I do, but I can't say anything about it yet. I do know what the next thing is we're doing on Dead Pit. Can't talk about it yet because every time we talk about it, if something fucks up, we don't. It doesn't end up happening. So never mind. The next show that we're doing, I don't know. It's something. Go on YouTube, figure it out. It's like I don't know. I'm not positive. But if this works out, it'll be really cool, and we'll announce it here in the next week or so. So appreciate everybody in the chat. There seems to be a lot of people that enjoy like exploitation films. And Alfa Romero, if he confirmed it, then I'm pretty sure it's true. Passed away Saturday in Evansville.
I found the obituary earlier, so yeah,
that fucking
it's
sucks.
unfortunate.
But anyway, thanks to everybody, and go over to Deadpit on Patreon, deadpit.com, shop.deadpit.com, Twitter and Instagram and all kinds of different things. And like I said, thanks to everybody for checking this out. I am Uncle Bill, of course, and we will see you next time on ExploitNation. Peace out, guys.
Later.
See you.
Give us a thumbs up,
Off you butt.
like, subscribe, And if you subscribe, here's something else you can do. Once you subscribe, you can click the bell notification, right? And it'll notify you anytime that Dead Pit puts up new shit.
Or don't. I really don't give a fuck. If you do
I
it.
want you to. I want you to.
I don't care.
Let's keep our community growing here on YouTube.
I don't like it. I don't want you to do nothing.
Listen, they need to do that now.
No, don't you dare touch it.
Thumbs up. Subscribe. And click that bell.
There's all kinds of wonderful shirts over at shop.deadpit.com. Simply the best horror shirts. On TeePublic, there are others, but they all suck. You can get some Dead Pit radio shirts. You can get Last South on the Left. The Hills Have Eyes. Texas Chainsaw. Oh, wait, you can't say Texas Chainsaw. All kinds of shirts, folks. You're gonna love them. Shop.deadpit.com.
Thank you to all of our supporters on Patreon. Dead Pit on Patreon.com is the only place to check out a complete archive of the old Dead Pit radio shows all the way back from 2005 on, in addition to the midweek shows, fan commentaries, exclusive podcasts, and much more. Dead Pit on Patreon.com if you're interested. Tiers start at only $1.
We ain't